Pokemon is the largest media franchise in the entire world. Now reaching its 25th anniversary, it has spanned 8 generations of Pokemon, reaching nearly 900 total Pokemon. But in the eyes of fans, not every generation of Pokemon is created equal. So today I'm here to rank the Pokemon generations. So let's get into it. Hey guys, what's going on here? It's Ryan today doing another tier list, this time ranking generations of Pokemon. So to give a little bit more context, we are looking purely at the Pokemon themselves. So this does not count towards the stories of these games. It does not count towards battle mechanics, the balance of the game, glitches, anything like that. We're purely looking at, I would say, the visual, the likability of Pokemon. Viability, not as much. You know, I'm not a huge competitive Pokemon player, but as far as like Pokemon that I think are fun to either play in the games or I think just look cool or look cute, anything like that. So we're going to be ranking the Pokemon generations. So when it comes to things like remakes and stuff like that, you're going to see there's a lot of like extra stuff in here. I don't know why things like you'll see X and Y here twice and things like that. We're really just looking at, okay, if I put Fire Red, Leaf Green, this is talking about Generation 1. So I think that's pretty clear. So like I said, if I throw up Alpha and, Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby, that doesn't mean discounting like the original Gen 3. That means it's just Gen 3 Pokemon. So without further ado, I do have the Cerebi pages just to give myself a refresh and to give everyone else a refresh on these Pokemon, and we can kind of take a trip down memory lane, if you will, to see each generation of Pokemon. So let's just go in generation order. Why not? Let's start with Gen 1. So obviously the starter line, completely iconic. Charizard, Charizard is Charizard. We got Venusaur here. We've got Blastoise. So very iconic starters. You got the Butterfree line, Beedrill, Pidgeot. I'm not going to name every name, but hey, of course, Pikachu. So plenty of iconic Pokemon here. Not everything is a complete hit, right? I mean, not too many people big on, Paris and Parasect. They kind of get thrown under the radar. Diglett, while, it can be a little fun, is it the most original design of Pokemon? Psyduck, everyone loves Psyduck, but Golduck, I don't know. But Generation 1, super iconic, of course. One of my favorite lines of all time, Abra, Kadabra, Alakazam, Machop through Machamp. Just so much nostalgia. Iconic. Gengar, super popular Pokemon. Execute and Electrode, probably on the lesser popularity side. Then you got Pokemon like Chansey. Of course, Mr. Mime and Jinx, maybe not so much on the popularity, but Magikarp, Gyarados, Lapras. The Eevee line, the original Eevee line, just so much. And then, of course, the legendaries. You have Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, and then you have Mewtwo, Mew, the Dragonite line. And at the end of the day, you guys all saw it coming. Generation 1 is going to be an S tier for me. Just too many iconic Pokemon. I started in Gen 1. I think everyone sees this coming. People who maybe didn't start with Gen 1, I can totally understand why it's not your favorite. But at the end of the day, for kids who grew up with Gen 1, it's always going to be there. It's what started it. It's what made, the people who started in Gen 1 fall in love with Pokemon. And if it wasn't for Gen 1 being as huge as it was back in the day, we wouldn't have seen the other generations. But let's move to Gen 2. Gen 2 is very popular. A lot of people consider Gold and Silver, Heart Gold, Soul Silver to be the best games out there. But today we are looking purely at the quality of the Pokemon. So the whole, being able to play in Johto and Kanto and having the option to not necessarily do the gyms in whatever order and things like that, all that, bringing in breeding, all the great things that Gen 2 did. Well, if we're looking purely at the quality of Pokemon, are you still going to feel the same way? So I'll say right out of the gate, the starter line, and I know I'm looking at the 3D sprites, which don't do a lot of these Pokemon justice, but I like I like the first forms of all the Pokemon: Chikorita, Cyndaquil, Totodile. But honestly, it really I mean, Bayleaf's pretty cool, but it really starts to fall off for me after that with the starter line. Quilava, Typhlosion is cool-ish. I know a lot of people love Typhlosion, and I'm saying even the 2D sprites, I'm not that big on Typhlosion. I'm not that big on Feraligatr either. Gen 2 may be my least favorite of the starters, mostly due to the second and third forms. I think all the first forms of the Gen 2 starters are pretty good. I do like Sentret Furret. I'm not as big on Hoot Hoot. See, it gets pretty lame here, but Crobat is awesome. Pichu, the baby Pokemon, Pichu's probably the best. Togepi is probably the best, but Pichu, Togepi are pretty good. Other babies, I'm not as crazy on. The Mareep line, obviously pretty good. But then, for me, a lot of these Pokemon, like, not so great, not so great. Wooper, Quagsire is pretty good. Espeon, Umbreon, I do like Murkrow as well. This is definitely a strong part here. And then, for me, it's a little rough. I feel like Gen 2, I'm not that big on Scizor. Sneasel's pretty cool. But yeah, a lot of Gen 2 for me. There's a few big hitters, don't get me wrong. There's a few big hitters. But, I do like Smeargle. I do like Smeargle. I do like the legendaries a lot. The legendaries are all awesome in the mythicals, so Celebi is great, Ho-Oh, Lugia, Tyranitar as the pseudo-legendary is awesome. The legendary beasts are great, Blissey is great, I do like Miltank. But there is a lot of not so great Pokemon in here. So at the end of the day, let's see, where's Gold and Silver? I'm going to give Gold and Silver a B. There's, especially when you play through the games, there's a lot of Pokemon. If you play Gold and Silver, even Heart Gold, Soul Silver, you're going to find yourself using mostly Gen 1 Pokemon because some of the Gen 2 Pokemon are just so bad. And I know a lot of the cool Pokemon they don't give you till the post game. And I know I said I wasn't factoring in gameplay, but the fact that there's just so many Pokemon that are like borderline useless in Gen 2 is super disappointing. Like there's just a lot of Pokemon that I just don't care about. But what brings it up to a B is all the legendaries are awesome, and there's just a few really cool, like Espeon, Umbreon are great, Tyranitar is great, and then there's a few cool, like interesting Pokemon like Smeargle. So that's where I put Gen 2 at a B. So going to Gen 3. Now, Gen 3, I think, is a totally different story. I really like the starter line for Sceptile, and I do also like Mudkip's line. A lot of people like Blaziken. For me, I love Torchic. I think every first form here is awesome. I think Mudkip, Torchic, and Trico are all awesome. I really like the Sceptile line, and I really like the Mudkip line. I just do not care as much about Combuskin and Blaziken. It just, like the Fire Chicken thing, it just doesn't look like cool or like badass for a final form. But then, obviously the bugs and stuff, never super exciting. Ludicolo, super cool. Not as big on Shiftry. The Talos Swellow line's alright. We get Gardevoir, really popular Pokemon. I actually kind of like Masquerain and Surskit, not gonna lie. Breloom's pretty cool. You have Slowking. Gen 3 for me is really strong. Shedinja is one of my favorite bug Pokemon ever, just because it's super interesting with the Wonder Guard. I've never been fan. I like Whismur, but never been fan of the other two forms at all. I even, Makuhita Hariyama is pretty awesome. Azurill, nothing big for me. Sableye to me is super cool. Same with Mawile. Aggron, like Gen 3 is so strong to me. Manectric, the Electrike Manectric line's pretty sweet. I even like Whalmer, Whale Lord, Spinda's awesome, Flygon. There's just so much in Gen 3. Like, it's actually refreshing it. I'm like, holy crap, it's even more than I thought. I'm not as crazy on the fossil guys here. Milotic's pretty sweet, although it's a pain to evolve. The ghosts are pretty cool. They really stepped up from Gen 2 there. A lot of people like Absol. Yeah, some of the babies aren't necessary, and not so much on the Clam Pearl stuff. And then, of course, the two pseudo legendaries, Bagon, Shelgon, Salamence line, and then you have the Metagross line. Legendaries, the Regis, I don't really care for too much. Latios and Latias is all right. But then, of course, the Weather Trio is super awesome. One of my favorite sets of legendaries with Groudon, Kyogre, Rayquaza, and, of course, Jirachi and Deoxys as the mythicals. Super awesome. I wasn't 100% sure where I was going to put Gen 3, but, doing the refresh, man, Gen 3 is just also an S tier. I think they just took it to a whole new level with, just having a lot of interesting Pokemon, a lot of really cool designs. In my opinion, just a lot stronger than Gen 2. Like, just going through that, I'm like, holy crap, there's way more than I even thought going into this video. So Gen 3, definitely S tier. Moving on to Gen 4. Now we have the Turtwig line, we have the Chimchar line, and we have the Piplup line. I'm a big fan of the Piplup line. I think Empoleon's super cool. Infernape's not too bad. And, again, I really always like all the first forms, although Turtwig's kind of meh. I think I did pick Turtwig when I first... No, I think I picked Piplup because I'm a big fan of penguins. But, yeah, Piplup definitely is like a heavy favorite of this line, but not too bad. I would say probably the least interesting one to me is Turtwig. And, I find the later generations, I'm really big on the grass starters. But anyway, Bidoof, I mean, the classic, HM, mule of your team. In all the memes, you gotta love Bidoof for that. Shinx through the Luxray line is also really cool. And then I really like Gen 4's. It does a heavy relying on Gen 1 with adding a lot of evolutions, but evolving like Pokemon, adding forms to Pokemon that maybe didn't see a lot of play and things like that was really cool, like adding Roserade. The fossil Pokemon are alright, never been too crazy about them, or, not too interesting with Burmy. I do think Vespiquen's pretty cool. I thought that was an interesting add, and making, starting to see bugs get a little more interesting. Gen 4, yeah, Drifloon's pretty cool. Not as crazy about Baneri. Honchkrow, super awesome. Mismagius, also pretty cool. Not as crazy about some of these other Pokemon. Bronzong was pretty cool. I do like Spiritomb a lot. A lot of the ghost designs I really like. And of course, you get Garchomp here as your pseudo-legendary. Garchomp is one of the more badass Pokemon. Lucario, definitely awesome. Munchlax, cute, but not too big on the baby Pokemon. Croagunk, one of my favorite Pokemon ever. I don't know why. Not as big of a Toxicroak fan, but I do have a Croagunk plush behind me. I don't like his 3D sprite so much, but I loved his Gen 4 sprite a lot. And then you get some not as interesting Pokemon like Finian, Mantike, not as big on Snover and Abomasnow. Weevil's pretty awesome. And then here you get to some of these cool evolutions. Magnezone, Licky Licky's pretty funny, but Rhyperior's awesome. I do like Electivire and Magmortar. Tangro's pretty cool. Togekiss is really awesome. I like Yanmega. And of course, we get some extra, the new evolutions with Leafeon and Glaceon. Porygon Z, Gallade. So Gardevoir has like an alternate. Instead of going to Gardevoir, you have Gallade. Dusknoir. Here's all those evolutions. And then the legendaries are pretty awesome. I do love Dialga, Palkia, Giratina. And then you have Darkrai and Cresselia. There's so many mythicals and legendaries. Arceus, Shaman. Super, super cool. So overall, I am going to give Gen 4, I'll probably give Gen 4 a B. It really does rely on a lot of those extra evolutions because it's a pretty small Pokedex if you look at it just completely on its own. And yeah, it lacks a little bit of its own identity, but it makes up for it with really awesome pseudo legendary in Garchomp, so a couple of strong starters, and then yeah, it's just got legendaries up the wazoo, and you do have like Luxray and things like that. So it's not terrible, but it definitely doesn't get an A because there's just too few of its own unique Pokemon. So let's go to Gen 5. Victini starts off the decks here, but now Gen 5 is definitely a controversial generation. This is another one where I really like the first forms. I guess I like the first forms of like every starter, so maybe I should just shut up about that. Yeah, I love Snivy's first and second form. I'm not huge on Superior. Tepig is probably the best looking line of Generation 5 for starters. We get to Oshawott, man. I love Oshawott, but I hate Duat and I hate Samurott. I think Samurott is like up there as one of the ugliest final forms of a starter. I do not like Patrat's okay. I hate the way Watchog looks. I just do not like Watchog's design. Never really cared too much for the Lillipup line or the Perleon line. Not a fan at all of the monkeys and their terrible, terrible evolutions. Muna's okay. That line's fine. Pidove I like, but not really a fan of the two evolutions. Have not really cared much for Blitzel and Zebstrika. Roggenroll is Woobat and Swoobat are fine. Drillbur and Excadrill is pretty cool. So they're definitely winners. Never really cared for Audino, Timberline. I've never really cared for. Neither did I care for this Timpole line or Throw and Suck. It gets a little rough here. Seawaddle's fine. I think that line's fine with Leaveney. I actually used in my last playthrough and was pretty fun to use actually. Venipede line's fine too. Cottony and Whimsicott I actually forgot came from Gen 5. Some of these I definitely get mixed up. Basculin, not super interesting. I think Sandile's a pretty cool line. I like Darumaka and Darmanitan as well. Scraggy and Scrafty I like a lot. Yamask is pretty cool. Fossil Pokemon alright. Trubbish and Garbodor I actually am a fan of, and I really like Zorua and Zoroark are fine too. Not a fan of this Gothita line. Ducklet, not super interesting. Vanillite for the memes, I honestly like. I like Emolga a lot as well. Kind of going through everything else relatively quickly. Litwick's pretty cool. Haxorus, I like. Cubchoo, I actually didn't even realize it was from Gen 5, actually. Golett and Golurker, alright. B-Sharp, Braviary's actually pretty cool looking. I like it a lot better than, I guess, Mandibuzz. Hydreigon, I've never been too crazy about either. And in terms of legendaries, I do like the look of Cobalion. Not too big on the other two. And then the Tornadus and Thundurus. Okay, I do like Reshiram and Zekrom. And then from there I'm kind of on the rest of them. So Gen 5, I would honestly give probably. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to give Gen 5 a D in terms of Pokemon. So hear me out here. We're talking strictly Pokemon and designs. Like I said, there's really only, I like the Tepig line probably the most. Just because even though first form, I'd probably say Snivy's my favorite. Tepig line is probably overall the most solid. And then there's some Pokemon in there like Haxorus that I think are pretty cool. But for the most part, I think there's just there's no Gen 5 Pokemon that I feel like it walks away being a lot of people's favorite Pokemon. I just feel like the popularity of the Pokemon, it's probably feels like overall, if you were to say like which, if you're looking at the most popular Pokemon, I just don't feel like Gen 5 comes up a lot for a lot of people. And that it's the same with me personally. Now, if we want to talk about like the games themselves and like what Gen 5 brought, and as far as the story of Gen 5 and, you know, upping the difficulty in like Black and White 2 and things like that, that's a whole nother story. But when we're focusing strictly on the Pokemon, I just think Gen 5 just doesn't hit the mark. It just doesn't hit the mark. So let's go to Gen 6. All right, I have to count with the tabs. Okay. Gen 6, I'll tell you right out of the gate, Chespin line, I think Chespin's fine, but my god. Quilladin and Chestnut are an abomination. I'm sorry, I'm just saying it. I think they are some of the worst. They are the worst looking starters of all time, in my opinion. This is the worst line ever made for starters. Fennekin, I'm not crazy about Fennekin either. You have Delphox. I've only played through Gen 6 once, but as far as the designs, not big on Fennekin. Now, Froakie, I mean, everyone loves Greninja. I think the Froakie line's awesome. I like Frogadier, too. I think the middle form's great, even though it is just kind of like a mix. But, I mean, not really. Greninja's its own thing. Frogadier's pretty cool. Yeah, this line just steals the show, and I know Greninja's one of the most popular Pokemon. Bunnelby's fine, but oh my god, I just do not like Diggersby. Fletchling, I really like this line. Talonflame's pretty awesome. It's nice to have the bird, like the generic bird, actually have an interesting type for once and be able to become a firebird, especially with fire is usually, you don't see fire Pokemon usually too early in the game, although Gen 6 was pretty good about that. Don't really care about the bugs too much. Litleo, I think, is awesome. I actually did like a shiny badge quest run years ago when I used to stream, and my first shiny in Gen 6 was a Litleo, so I do kind of have an attachment there, but I think it's cool and you can get it early in the game, which is awesome. Then you have the Pokemon that I actually thought were in Gen 7 because I played Gen 7 first, Flabebe's line. Skidoo's pretty cute. I do like Pancham and Pangoro. Espur's pretty... I think Espur's pretty cute, but I don't really care about Meowstic too much. Honedge is pretty badass. Doublade's okay, but I do like Aegislash. You have the Spritzy and Swirlix. Inkay, which is kind of interesting. Not really cool. Don't really care about Malamar too much. Binacle and these are like some of my least favorite Pokemon ever. Binacle and Barbaracle. Then we have Dragalge, which is interesting because it's a dragon, but other than that, yeah, not too much of a big fan of like the Heliolisk line either. We have the fossil Pokemon I actually really like, and then Sylveon, super awesome. Hawlucha, really cool. I used to be a big wrestling fan, so to have this design, I think of Hawlucha is like really creative, to look like a bird but also a luchador. I think this is like an incredible Pokemon. Dedenne is probably one of the Pikachu clones. It's probably my favorite Pikachu clone other than obviously Pikachu. It's really cool, really interesting. I like it a lot. Fairy type makes it kind of cool. The Goomy line is probably my least favorite of like the pseudo legendaries. I like that they tried to do something a little bit different. I do like that it's pure dragon, although I would have expected like poison just kind of based on the design, but yeah, not too big on it. Klefki, I think for the memes is pretty funny. I do kind of like some of those meme Pokemon. Phantom Trevenant, actually one of my favorite lines. I love the design of both of them. The spooky trees, it kind of reminds me of for some reason it's like if you play Donkey Kong Country 2, there's what is that place called, Gloomy Gulch. It reminds me of like, okay, if these Pokemon were to be in like another game, they would be in Donkey Kong Country 2 in Gloomy Gulch, because that just design just reminds me of like kind of a ghost like forest, because there are these like ghost things in that game. But anyway, that tangent. I love Phantump and Trevenant. Pumpkaboo and Gourgeist, never been a big fan of these ice dudes. Noivern's pretty cool. Xerneas, so of the legendaries and mythicals, Xerneas is pretty awesome. I do like Zygarde as well. Other than that, I'm like, Volcanion's kind of not a fan of Hoopa or Diancie either, or Yveltal. So overall, I would say I'll probably give Gen 6 a C. There are some cool Pokemon in here. But most of them I feel like are kind of the pseudo legendary not being super interesting. Only one legendary really kind of standing out to me. Not as big on the starters either, but except for Greninja, of course. You got Phantom. I feel like the Phantom line, the legendary Greninja kind of save it. But other than that, I'm kind of on Gen 6. But I do think there's probably more Pokemon in this generation I care about than in Generation 5. All right, going to Generation 7. I played a lot of Gen 7, so I'm probably going to be a little more biased towards it. The Rowlet line is one of my all-time favorites. Decidueye, like Rowlet, I think is one of the cutest starters ever. Sorry, I'm scrolling up and down a lot. The Litten line, Incineroar, I kind of, like I said, I'm a big wrestling fan, so I do like the look of him being a wrestler. I wish he looked a little bit less cheesy, but Incineroar is still pretty cool. And even Popplio's my least favorite first form of this generation, and Brioni is kind of lame looking too, but for whatever reason, this line has grown on me a little bit. I do like Primarina. I think Primarina is definitely the best looking of these three. But yeah, definitely the Popplio line is the weakest in this generation. We got Toucannon, Gumshoes, not a big fan. Grubbin's kind of interesting though, with the Vikavolt line, pretty interesting. Then you get to some Pokemon I'm not big on. Rockruff, super cute. Lycanroc, I like how Lycanroc has, two different forms. Wishy-Washy, really interesting Pokemon for sure. Not a fan of the Mudbray line. Or, don't really care about Formantis either. I do really like Salandit and Salazzle, interesting with like the female only being the one to evolve. Beware is pretty awesome. I used him in a playthrough. He was super clutch. I love the design of Oranguru. I'm a big fan of monkeys. I like Passimian too. Wimpod into the Galiciopod is pretty awesome. I used him in one of my playthroughs. It was nice to have like a really badass bug type Pokemon. Type Null is kind of weird. Not really crazy about Type Null. Mimikyu, super awesome. I love the design of it. Drampa, you get Never Ending Story. Pseudo legendary in Komodo, I wasn't too crazy about. I do like the Tapus, Tapu Koko probably being the most, being the coolest one. But I also love Cosmog, super cute, legendary, in the evolution line. Solgalio's pretty badass. Not as big on Lunala, but I do like Solgaleo. And then the legendary beasts. Not legendary beasts. I'm sorry, the ultra beasts. Buzzwole. I love Buzzwole. It's just the most ridiculous thing ever. The jellyfish dude, I can never say his Nihil Elgo or whatever. Can never say his name right. Is pretty interesting. The other ones I'm not as crazy about. I pretty much like Buzzwole the most. The other ones, like Guzzlord's all right. Necrozma, like the whole Ultra Necrozma thing's pretty cool. I do like Poipole. And Blacephalon is also pretty awesome. Meltan, give or take. So going through Gen 7, I'd probably put, where's Sun and Moon? Probably put it at a B. Gen 7, I think it's a solid B. The starter lines are really good. Popplio obviously a little bit weak, but it's got some, awesome Pokemon like, the Galiciopod. It's got some good stuff. I like Gen 7. I think Gen 7's pretty solid. So let's go to Gen 8. So Gen 8 starter lines, I think, once again, no surprise. I think every first form looks pretty awesome. Grookey, definitely my favorite first form. And in second form too. I like Thwacky a lot. But overall, I think the final forms, I'm not crazy. I think actually Inteleon is the best final form. I think Scorbunny and Reboot. I think the best middle form is actually Reboot. So for me, it's like Grookey is the best first form of the starters. Reboot is the best second form, and Inteleon is the best third form. So it kind of evens out. I think Sobble's cool, but like Drizzile is eh. I think Cinderace just reminds me too much of the clown from It, the new version of It. I just can't like unsee it, and it really just makes me, it just looks too much like a clown bunny, and I don't know. I can't get past that. Reboot is awesome though. I really like Reboot. But yeah, Inteleon I think is the coolest one, like a James Bond chameleon. So there you go. I do like Corviknight line. I think that's really cool. Steel Flying is pretty interesting. Orbeetle's even interesting, especially with like the VMAX form. It's one of the more interesting bugs. Not really a fan of like the blip bug design, but yeah. Then we got Wulu, super cute. Double. Choodle just looks really stupid. I hate the look of Choodle, but Dreadnought, not bad. Yamper, super cool. Boltund, not interesting at all. They kind of ruined Yamper. I wish they would have kept the corginess instead of just turning it into a more generic dog. Colossal line, Applin line, now this is some awesome stuff here. Applin, Flapple, Appleturn, really, really interesting. I like that. Sandaconda, stupid. Just whatever. Cramorant, I think Cramorant's hilarious. Toxel and Toxtricity. I love the electric poison typing. Toxtricity, I think it's fun. Sizzlipede into Centiskorch. I love Centiskorch. Centiskorch is probably it probably is my favorite bug Pokemon actually. It's just super cool. I love the VMAX form, the fire bug type. It was really, really fun to use in my playthrough, and it was the first shiny I also got too. Clobbopus I think is really cute. I'm not a fan of Graplock at all. Sinesti, kind of interesting. Do not really care for the hat line. I do like the Impidimp Grimmsnarl line. It's pretty fun. Obstagoon, pretty cool. Like after a Kiss character, it's kind of interesting. Berserker, not really big on. Cursula, I think is a super cool idea. Love that we got Surfetched. Mr. Rhyme. I love Mr. Rhyme. I like Mr. Mime. One of those people that actually likes Mr. Mime. And I thought it was cool that he got an evolution. I don't like the clown face on his chest, but I do like that he's supposed to be like Charlie Chaplin. So I think that's super interesting. I like that Yamask got a different evolution. Alchemy is awesome. I love Alchemy, and I love the VMAX form being a giant cake. And the way that you evolve Milcery, I think, is one of the most interesting things, like one of the coolest concepts for evolving a Pokemon that they've ever done. And the fact that you can do the different like swirls and stuff is really awesome. Phalanx, Snom is super adorable. Don't really care as much for Frostmoth. Ice-Q is so ridiculous, but I kind of like it. Morpeko, I'm a big fan. I think it's another great Pikachu clone. I think I like Dedenne a little bit better, but I do like Morpeko a lot. On Copperajah. The fossil Pokemon I thought was pretty funny how they handled it. Duraludon is interesting. Kind of looks like a building in its VMAX form, which I thought was kind of fun. I do like Dragapult a lot. I think the design is really interesting, although it's a little weird. He like shoots the babies or whatever. Zacian, Zamazenta, I really like as the legendary mascots. I think they're one of the more interesting legendaries, and the TCG has kind of made me appreciate them more. Eternatus don't really care too much for. Cubfu and Urshifu I think is really awesome as well. And I love, leveling up the Cubfu. I think Cubfu is super cute. And Urshifu is pretty awesome too. Then you have Zarude, which I'm kind of like, I haven't really messed with too much, but design-wise, I'm kind of on it. And then they added some interesting Regis, the new Regieleki, I don't even know how to pronounce it, Regidrago. And then you have Calyrex with the Steeds, Glastrier and Spectrier. Overall, I really do think Gen 8 solid. And, it might have some of the more Pokemon I've liked more recently other than some of the older generations. So I'm actually going to go out on a bit of a limb if I can even find where Sword and Shield is. Is Sword and Shield not on here? Did I really go? They have Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Do they not have Sword and Shield? What is this? Am I just not seeing it? Maybe I'm missing it. Okay, let's just pretend this Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee is Sword and Shield, and whatever. We're just gonna say, I must have picked an old tier list. Wow, I didn't do my homework before this. But anyway, let's pretend I'll edit over it. Sword and Shield gets an A for me. I think it's got, starters are a little bit, like I said, there's something great about each form of the starters, and I think, obviously, like I said, for every generation, the first forms are good. But yeah, there, you get Centiskorch in there. I think Zacian and Zamazenta are really cool. I love Alchemy. There's a lot of good stuff in, I like Corviknight. I think there's a lot of really good and interesting designs, and I think it's some of the best designs that they've done since Generation 3, based on this tier list. So this is where I stand with the Pokemon generations in terms of the Pokemon themselves. I'm sure you guys have totally different opinions, so definitely let me know what you guys think. Definitely share your opinions, and yeah, I will see you guys next time. So thank you for watching.